Hello.
Hi. Hey, you want to join our
Yes,
podcast?
he's right here. Give me just a second.
You should stand in for Shay. QJ.
Can she hear us?
QJ. QJ.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ZBN podcast. I'm your host, Spigel. With me today, Hextupa
Hey guys.
and Xiaber.
Good afternoon.
And everyone's back, and we're all ready to do another podcast because it's been a while since we did one. The last one we did was the Nintendo Direct reaction, and this one is actually our first one since we started our new series of shows called The Minish Recap, which is sort of a news show. It's just a really bite-sized 10-minute piece that we do, just a little bit of analysis on like one piece of news. So we're doing that kind of as a result of these podcasts getting a little long, and they're probably still going to go long, but at least we're not going to talk about news for the first half. At least we can really delve into the topics that we want to talk about. So if you're interested in news analysis, we'll still talk a little news on here if it's like really big, but most of it you'll be able to find over on the Minish Recap videos, hosted by me and various other people at some point in the future. So, no real news to talk about anyway right now. Pretty slow.
Beginning of the year. Yeah, nothing happening.
Anything really stuck out? Anything really stuck out to you guys over the last week or so? There was a trailer for Pokken Fighters.
Oh, I didn't see it. I'll have to look at that.
You didn't see it? Basically, they revealed Pikachu, Gardevoir, and Suicune as playable characters. Apart from that, I can't really think of anything else that happened. And we still don't even know if Pokken Fighters is coming to Wii U anyway, so who cares? If it's just going to be a Japanese arcade game, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really play fighting games, so I'm not super interested, but it's good to know.
So yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into our topic. Today, I wanted to. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while. Just because I was looking through like a best games of 2014 list, and I kept seeing a couple games that really stood out to me. And that was The Last of Us Remastered for PS4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 for PS4 and Xbox One. And I was thinking, are these really even 2014 games? They came out in 2013. Both of them came out in 2013. They were remastered for their respective consoles in 2014 as a money grab. Oops, don't say that. So, I mean, what do you guys think about when they announced these games are getting remade for those systems? What did you guys think?
Well, it kind of depends on the way that those games are developed, and let me explain what I'm talking about. So, when they develop games like The Last of Us or Tomb Raider, the newer one, generally in the pipeline, they create all of these assets such as models and textures with really high resolution textures, and then what they do when they put it on a console is they take those textures and downsize them so that they fit. And so when they make Tomb Raider Remastered, basically what they did is just take the larger versions of those textures that were already made. So they don't actually have to remake anything. They're just taking the things that they hadn't yet downsized and then putting that on the disc. So in that respect, it kind of is like a money grab. It also is sort of like actually, this is the vision that we wanted, and now we can achieve it. So there's two sides to the coin there, but largely it's like they already have these assets sitting around, might as well make some money off of them, right? So that's kind of my thought. But there are other instances, such as Wind Waker HD, where there weren't any larger textures to work with, I don't think. Or maybe there were, I just don't know about them. But they also changed a lot about the game. So I want to kind of create a distinction between what's a remake and what we call like a remaster. Because in the sense of a remake, like how much is changing? Is it actually changing the game feel, or is it basically just up-resing the models and textures?
Like
what exactly does it entail?
Right. When I think remake, I think like a 10-year-old game or a 15-year-old game or whatever, like Wind Waker or Majora's Mask, that is getting the attention that or not the attention, the fixes that it needed. Like a lot of the problems that are in it are getting fixed. stuff like that, graphical upgrades, not just what you said, not just upraising and everything like that.
Right. So in that sense, the experience that you're getting is actually slightly different than the original game in a remake.
So Xiaber, what were your thoughts when they announced they were going to be re-releasing these games? Like, did it bother you? It was just like, okay.
For me at the time, I thought it was mostly a good thing because at that point, it was very hard for me to find old games like that. Like when they started announcing all these PS3 remasters of PS2 games, I was excited about it because I was thinking, hey, now I can finally play these games. But then, yeah, you do get to the things where like they have a remaster of a game a year later and act like it's a completely different game, and that's when it's more like how they used to just have the games come out for both of the old and newest console at the same time.
Which they're doing right now with games like, Mortal Kombat X, I think. I don't know, there's other games. But you actually brought up an interesting point, and you said that they were remastering PS2 games for PS3. You're talking about the Sly Cooper collection, the Jak and Daxter collection.
Ego and Shadow Colossus.
Yeah, those two. And then, and what I was thinking about that is, so we kind of have three different categories of re-releases, right? We have the remake, which is like a 10-year-old game that's updated visually and fixes some of the problems. We have the remaster, which is a game that came out like a year ago that is being redone or up-resed for the next generation console. And then we have the collection, which is updated visuals, not that many changes to games that are, 6 or 7 years old, but making like a collection. Like they also did PS3 also had a Journey collection where it was like Journey, Snow, and Flower. They weren't updated, but they were all like packaged into one thing like a couple years later. Mm-hmm. So that's like kind of fits into that category. So here we're looking at three different categories, and I kind of want to go into each one and like talk about which ones you're okay with, which ones you feel are just kind of like cash grabby, and also I want to talk about which HD remakes, remasters, collections, and not just HD, obviously, just remakes, remasters, and collections that you'd like to see in the future, if you'd like to see any at all. Okay, so we're going to start with remakes, I guess. So obviously, being Nintendo fans, there's one, I guess, there's a couple big ones that we could mention that have come out in the last couple years. Incidentally, all of them Zelda games. Ocarina of Time in 2011, Wind Waker HD in 2013, and then Majora's Mask this year. And in fact, in just a couple weeks, I'm so excited. And I guess I could say the reason I'm so excited is because in my mind, this is the most acceptable form of remaking a game, is taking a very old game, or a slightly old game, and fixing the problems that it originally had, and updating the visuals to make them more modern, and just giving the game a new like polish that you couldn't get on the original system. And I think it's going to be super evident with Majora's Mask, because that game was made fairly quickly, and there were some things in it that I felt could have been fixed.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I really like about these Zelda remakes, and I guess we can call them remakes, is the fact that essentially what they're doing is taking an older game and then giving it new life, such that the experience we play when we play the remake is almost like the equivalent of how we felt about the game back in the day. Because, those games aged, right? So when you're a kid, you're playing this game, it feels really new and fresh, and it's awesome. But then you go look back on it, and it's like, this is kind of dated. Some of these things feel really archaic. So what they do is basically update the game so that it feels like it belongs in modern day. And so it's kind of like reliving that moment. Those emotions can be reestablished or re-experienced. So that's kind of what I think is really cool about that, because I can't play the old N64 games anymore and really enjoy them as much. I really need to play the 3D versions on 3DS, just because I can't look past some of those really old looking visuals and still get the same amount of enjoyment that I did as a kid.
So you're a graphics whore, basically, is what you're saying.
No, I just like seeing their vision actually realized in a way that they couldn't accomplish before. Because that's essentially what they're doing.
Well, here's my question to you, and sorry, Xiaber, if you wanted to say something, but when you say their vision realized, like, it's not how many people that worked on the original Ocarina of Time, like 13 years later, were working on Ocarina of Time 3D? So, I mean...
Well, I mean, the ones who have the vision itself are basically still there. Like, Onuma is there.
Yeah.
He's the one with the vision. And it's kind of his vision, right? So
yeah.
I would say, yes, that's happening.
I don't know, if I were to make a game, I would still feel great if, like, someone else came back and made it the way that I wish I could have made it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, like somebody else carrying the torch for you because you can't anymore. Which I don't know how many instances there are where that happens, but it's an interesting dynamic.
You've put this image into my head of just these like broken down game developers who are like living in a retirement home, and they're like they're like talking to the kids like, "Go make Ocarina of Time the way I wanted it to be made," and just like.
That's gonna happen someday when Onuma and Miyamoto are like old hags and sitting in some crazy asylum because of all the crazy things that they've seen and made.
The Nintendo retirement home, like where they have like Dr. Mario comes out in the costume and like gives them their pills every day.
Yes, exactly.
That'd be awesome.
I'd love to live there.
Yeah, Nintendo has they have done like love hotels in the past. I don't think making a retirement home would be too far off.
That right there.
It's not really the same thing, but
no, that's
love retirement home.
That's disgusting. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. I don't really have a whole lot to say, but you know what? Actually, let's not move on because I want to bring this up. There are obviously games that have been remade and of very old games for Nintendo systems, specifically. And I was wondering, what games would you guys like to see remade, and what problems would you like to see fixed? Since obviously, I think this is generally agreed that remakes are a more acceptable form of cash grabbing. So, what games would you guys like to see remade?
Well, I thought it was interesting that I didn't think about it, but Zelda is really the only thing that's been remade by Nintendo lately. So that's interesting. I think something that a lot of people have kind of been wishing for, and it's kind of been on various videos that I've been watching from other people, is Mario Sunshine. And you're in fact playing Mario Sunshine as we speak. You were playing it before we started this podcast.
I started playing it because I knew we were going to do this podcast and I wanted to be able to talk about it.
But that's one. I'll let you elaborate on that one. But a few that I kind of had, I was looking at my game collection earlier, and one of the things that I think would be nice would be a remaster / remake of the original 2 Pikmin games, because Pikmin 3 is gorgeous. And looking back at Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 1, it's really hard to, you see what it could have been if it was on the Wii U or something like that. And I think that would be a neat
Just
remake.
to interject, they did do Pikmin and Pikmin 2 on Wii with new play control. So you're not counting that, right? Because that's the GameCube game, that's the GameCube game with Wii remote controls.
Exactly.
Something that was something that Nintendo was very guilty of in the Wii days, where they just didn't make new games. And they just tossed out the GameCube games, yeah.
But at that point, I would still have been great because Wii was my first Nintendo console after the original NES.
Oh wow!
So being able to play those GameCube games that I never was able to play was fine with me.
Well, yeah, that's a
good point. Yeah.
I mean, not a lot of people. I mean, think about it. Not a lot of people bought the GameCube compared to the Wii. Like, it's a far cry from the amount of people. So being able to experience GameCube games on the Wii is a good thing.
And not a lot of people bought the N64, right? So more people own a 3DS right now than ever owned a Nintendo 64. And more people are probably going to buy Majora's Mask than they did on the N64.
That's true.
So I mean, it's true. Remakes are good for bringing new audiences to games that have kind of never reached that audience before. So I guess in a sense they can be good, but I'm gonna bring up my point in a minute if Xiaber wants to say something.
Well, I was going to say that. Well, I forgot it now.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting though that currently we're on the HD console that we're using right now is the Wii U, and that audience is really small. So remaking things for Wii U doesn't really bring new people in as much as maybe 3DS would, which is great for Majora's Mask, but remaking something for the Wii U doesn't seem like a really good move. I mean, for Wind Waker, it was kind of like a byproduct of experimentation, and so that was cool. But fewer people are experiencing Wind Waker HD than the original, I'm assuming. I don't have the sales numbers in front of me, but
You're correct.
Okay, I remember what I was going to talk about.
Yay.
I was going to say that we also forgot about Star Fox 64 3D.
That's right. I forgot about that. And you know
And
what?
like-
They did didn't they do another N64 game on 3DS also, or was it just Zelda?
I think that was it. But like seeing those kind of games, it would be great for them to remake those kind of games. Like they could remake F-Zero, maybe another Star Fox, and other games like that. Maybe see if people are still interested in those products.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know why it seems like maybe. Oh, I remembered. It was actually Donkey Kong Country Returns, but that was a Wii game. But anyway,
No, I think Xiaber, actually, you make a really good point about old games that we haven't, like sleeping franchises. That's a really great way to see if there's still an audience for a franchise like F-Zero or Star Fox. I mean, Star Fox is getting a new game, so whatever, but F-Zero, great example of a game that should be remade, just to see if people would still like a game like that.
here's a thought though. There's also like really high profile releases that people really want. Take for example Earthbound, right? Like they released it on the Virtual Console with a lot of hype, and like everybody bought it. And like I think that's also a good way to gauge interest, but just not even have to put the work in. Just like get the game and make sure it's emulated properly, and then you can just throw it out there in Virtual Console with a lot of hype. So say, if we ever get GameCube games on Wii U, I think one of the ones they should launch with would be F-Zero GX. And be able to play that on the gamepad and to just hype it up beyond belief. Like you'll see from the sales whether or not that's something that people want to buy, and you don't even really have to put in any extra remastering effort,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about that is like hype is required.
There's still some games I don't think should be remade, like Earthbound. I can't imagine it looking any different.
Mm-hmm.
Or
that is true.
Final Fantasy VII, that game that everyone wants remade. I'm just like, guys, you know how horrible that will be if they remade it?
With modern Square Enix,
I'm just gonna love that time where I go in the bathtub with a bunch of guys.
Okay, and as for Earthbound, I wasn't suggesting they remake it. I was just suggesting that when they release it on Virtual Console, they say like, okay, here's the game. If it sells well, we'll do another Earthbound, or we'll do like a Mother 1 through 3 like remastered collection of some kind. And now that kind of moves us on to the next topic. But I still have stuff to say about Super Mario Sunshine, so I'm going to do that just right now.
Well, let me just real quick list
okay.
like the few other games that I had. So just because I like them, Mario Galaxy, probably too soon. But
I have a lot to say about that, so we'll talk about that in a minute.
Super Monkey Ball, the series, any of those games, like the first 2 or 3, like really fun games that I think would be really great if they modernized the visuals. And then some of the old Sonic games, like back at the very beginning of the 3D era, it wouldn't be too hard to kind of fix some of the glitchy problems they had, as well as updating the visuals, because they look really old these days. And I have fond memories of playing the early 3D Sonic games. Can't play them now because they suck, really. But if I could experience the emotions that I had when I played them with my innocent eyes, that would be fun. And
okay, well, speaking of Sonic and Super Monkey Ball, like, do you really think that Sega is even capable of making a good game? And, yeah, so I don't want to see. I don't want do it. Look, I don't want Sega to touch Super Monkey Ball. Like, get them away from it. Like, they're really good as they are. So if you're gonna remake them, just get another company to do it.
Yeah.
I don't even think Sega could do a remake at this point. They're just like, what happened? Whatever. We'll talk about that later. On another show, we'll have like a Sega bashing podcast.
What's wrong with Sega?
If that's your thing. Actually, Hex, you were going to write an article about this on the ZB.net, which is a good time to get a plug-in for our site. The ZB.net is our website where we write about gaming-related things, and we have a lot of fun writing it, so you should go check that out if you're into game blogging. A lot of really creative and talented people there. Lots of stuff coming out all the time, so just check up, and we'd really appreciate it. So now back onto the topic at hand. Remakes. Like I said, I was playing Super Mario Sunshine, and so I'm about maybe a quarter of the way into the game right now, and I'm just noticing all these things that I never saw before. And maybe Mario Galaxy has sort of taken me into the, for lack of a better term, like the modern age of platformers, but there's a lot of things in Sunshine that just kind of feel super dated.
Such as?
The camera is very awkward. And I know, like, it's like a cliche when talking about these 3D Mario games, but the camera's not very good. Like, it's just not.
Are you thinking
awkward.
Like the automatic camera that functions on its own without your input?
No, because you pretty much control almost everything. You use the C stick to do it, and it's kind of like in Wind Waker. But if I'm correct, I believe the controls are mapped backwards. So the camera in Wind Waker, when you flick left, it swings the camera to the right. But when you flick left in Mario Sunshine, it swings the camera to the left, and it really threw me off for some reason.
Well, even though that's a muscle memory thing, though, right?
Right. So it's not a flaw in the game itself, but I've been in several points where I just I'm trying to see, and I just can't see anything.
Well,
I'm like
that
stuck
brings
behind
up
a wall.
the point of like customized controls. Let the player choose to invert the camera control if they want to, but that's another discussion we can.
Well, I don't think that was a huge issue back in 2002. I mean, I'm not sure how big of a complaint the camera was at the time, but I know that as the industry has modernized, it hasn't been camera problems anymore, right? It's been other things that have been the issue with modern platformers.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, with Mario Sunshine, and here's my thing about remakes in general, is that for me, updated visuals isn't really a reason for me to buy something again. And ultimately, that's what a lot of these games are. Like, Ocarina of Time 3D didn't really add anything. I only bought it because I was really starved for a new end experience on a 3DS, because there wasn't anything in June of 2011. And, like, even with Wind Waker HD, I don't want to say I regret my purchase, but I bought that game for $50, and I haven't really touched it. It's just sort of been like, oh, yeah, Wind Waker, I played that game.
But you buy a lot of games you don't touch.
No, that's not a fair thing to say. Like, because I'm going to play them eventually. Wind Waker HD, I just kind of look at like, yeah, maybe I'll get to it, but it's not really that important to me because I already played it. And at the time I bought it for I just bought it because the visuals were updated, and yeah, it looks really good. But did I need to get it? No, not really. So that's my issue with remakes in general, and this is why for me, I'd probably rather have like a big remake collection, like the Sly Cooper games and the Jak and Daxter games, but of really old games. Like I said, the Mother collection I would like to see. I want to see a Mario Party 1 through 3 collection, because there's no way you can ruin your control sticks playing Mario Party on these newer consoles, because they don't rub up against plastic, and erode.
Right.
So anyway, I want to see Mario Party 1 through 3 because I'm a huge Mario Party nerd.
Just to interject, or maybe you were done, but
that was a really long soliloquy by me. So go ahead and talk for a while.
Well, one thing that I think is important about updating visuals, particularly for games from the N64, like when you had games on the SNES and prior, or specifically the SNES, that was like the apex of 2D visuals, right? Like everything looked really good, and they still look good today.
And I don't feel like there's any reason to ever remaster a Super Nintendo game just because
right.
I feel like, yeah, look at it.
It doesn't look bad.
You don't need to redo Super Metroid,
Right. But you look at an N64 game, and it's clear that they were trying to accomplish things that the hardware was still really young, and they really couldn't, realize the visuals that they wanted to. And I think that's one of the things that makes N64 games a really good target for remakes, because those are the games that really suffered from a lack of hardware capability. And,
hardware limitation, yeah.
So I think there are a lot of N64 games that would look really good today, even if they didn't change the way the game felt when you play it. So yeah, there's that. I think there's a case to be made about visuals and that sort of motivation for creating something again. And one last thing on this. You mentioned earlier you'd like to see Mario Galaxy, although you think it's too soon. I would agree with you. I mean, it has been 8 years, although I will say that they just released Super Mario Galaxy 2 on the Wii U. I guess it's not Virtual Console, whatever it is. Yeah. And I'm just like, I just don't see why these games need a remake. They're really good as it is. I would say we should probably save that for like the remaster category then, because I think like a simple upres for Mario Galaxy would do wonders, quite honestly. Like, you look at that on Dolphin, the emulator, that looks really great. The lighting is really gorgeous. I just don't like seeing anti-aliasing, like really crappy anti-aliasing and really gigantic pixels. They're like as big as hams.
Ham-sized pixels in Mario Galaxy? I don't remember looking that bad. Okay, so one thing, again, I'd like to see those games. If I'm going to buy them again, I'd like to see them together in a package, 1 and 2 together.
Yeah.
And for like $40. Like, I'm not going to shell out $50 for Mario Galaxy on Wii U. It's just like, yeah, it's a great game, but I can already play it. And it's not like yes, I have an HD TV, but visuals are not so important to me that it's like ruined for me if it's a little bit blurry and upsized without it being actually real 480p.
Right.
So, but that's me. Xiber, did you have anything to say? We've been talking like 10 minutes. I don't think you said anything.
I don't really have much to say about this.
Okay.
Do you have any games that you want to like mention that you want to see remade? I mean, they've been doing Kingdom Hearts to death, haven't they?
I feel like I already mentioned remakes, really.
And that Kingdom Hearts is another example of an HD collection, and I think it lends itself really well just because Kingdom Hearts as a series is a complete mess, and even though the titles of the remakes are also complete, a complete mess. Kingdom Hearts HD Remix 1.5. Like, what's 1.5? What's 1.5 about it?
It involves the first game and the games in between two. So
it's not 1.5. It's 1.33, and 1.66. Well, I don't want to make it even more complicated.
But yeah, this collection was definitely a necessity for the fans.
Well, because like not everybody has a DS and a 3DS and a Game Boy Advance and a PS2 and all the other consoles that Kingdom Hearts games have almost seemingly randomly come out on.
Like, actually, all you really needed was a PS2, a PSP, and a 3DS.
And a PSP,
just those three consoles.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Just those three. Anyway, so remasters then, right?
Yeah. Now, remasters for me, not a fan. Not a fan at all. I like... Why am I going to buy The Last of Us in 2014 if I already have it in 2013? I just like I said, I'm not a visuals guy.
So we can see a marginal improvement on the visuals. Of course, everybody loves paying $60 for marginal improvements.
Well, let's be fair. Last of Us Remastered is not $60.
Okay.
And it is a really, really great game. Probably game of 2013 in the competition for game of 2014. Honestly, even as the same game, because 2014 was not a fantastic year for games.
Well, I would say maybe remasters, like really soon after remasters, like soon after the original game, is kind of like, hey, just in case there's some people out there left that didn't buy the original, don't bother with that anymore. Just buy this one that's slightly better. Is kind of like what they're doing. And then the people who are foolish enough to like, oh, I really need that, even though I just beat it yesterday, and they want to rebuy it, well, whatever, go for it. But I feel like that's really the target demographic for remasters like that. It's just, let's scoop up the last few people who maybe didn't want to buy the original because they were already anticipating a remaster in the first place or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about games that are coming out at the end of a console's life cycle. You can kind of anticipate really great games are going to be shoehorned as a remaster at the beginning of the next generation. It's kind of something that
like New Super Mario Brothers U was a remake of the Wii game. Oh wait, no, it was just the same bad New Super Mario Brothers.
Well, I mean, yeah, Last of Us is a prime example. Tomb Raider as well.
There's a lot of games. Grand Theft Auto 5, Sleeping Dogs. I'm just thinking of games that I see at my job that I see on both consoles that I know one came out before. Though I think The Wolf Among Us might have been one, although I know nothing about that game.
There's some insight about the way these games are made and the fact that they keep getting remastered right into the beginning of the next generation. Like I said, when they make these games for the inferior consoles, the older consoles, they make them so that they would look good on the new console. And knowing that a new hardware platform is in development, like as early as they announced these things, I'm sure when they were making Tomb Raider for Xbox 360 and PS2 or 3, they already knew about PS4 and Xbox One coming out. So let's go ahead and make the assets for that. Knew. But we also want to release it on the older console because that's the one that's actually out. So I mean, it's probably bound to happen more often during transition periods than it would be, somewhere in the middle of the PS4, Xbox One generation.
I think my bigger issue with it is the fact that that people are suckered into it, because we know that this generation of consoles, the leap from PS3 to PS4 was not nearly as great as the leap from PS2 to PS3. So I feel like a remaster is even more unacceptable to buy one year and then be asked to buy again the next year. Especially when you have a console that has the PS4 that has had a complete drought of legitimate AAA games that anyone really wants to play that are exclusive, and that's all PS4 had for the first half of the year was The Last of Us Remastered. And I don't know, it felt like it just didn't sit with me, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I'm a fanboy, but I don't care.
In our eyes, it's a value in the eyes of the consumer thing, right? To us, there's not a lot of value in a game being remastered soon after the original came out. But I mean, if the market is there, if there are people who value that kind of thing, and clearly there are people like that, then more power to the developers. Just re-release it with the assets before they were compressed. Whatever, people buy it, and
people buy Madden every year.
So, I mean, while it is something that I don't care about, clearly there are people out there that want that kind of thing. So I can't really blame them.
I mean, even before the remasters, when the new console would come out, that you would find the same exact games on the older and the newer console.
Yeah, that's true.
So I kind of think it's better, at least, that the remasters look better, because it used to be, oh, hey, it looks just as crappy as the old console's game. Why should I bother getting this one or the other one or both?
That's true. I'd probably rather have Last of Us Remastered than Watch Dogs on PS4, as opposed to Watch Dogs.
I think all
we
we just need to do is either have the developers tell you before you buy the older version, hey, there's going to be a remaster one, or just kind of expect there to be a remaster one, I guess.
Well, they're never going to do that, though. That's a dumb business decision. And it's not like people get so mad about this they legitimately boycott the companies that do this to them.
Yeah,
it's very hard for gamers to boycott stuff.
But yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot more to say about remasters. We kind of covered why they happen, and they're probably going to keep happening given the way things are playing out. But
I mean, here's the thing, right? I don't have the sales numbers in front of me, but as far as I know, Grand Theft Auto 5. Well, Grand Theft Auto 5 is actually selling really well. It's probably selling better on the next-gen consoles than it did last generation. Like I said, I don't have the numbers, so don't. I mean,
that might be reflective of the fact that people are waiting for the newer version because they know it's going to happen. So
and there's also less to play. On the.
Yeah.
I'm not ripping the console. I'm just saying right now there is less to play, so that might be why. But I mean, the fact is people keep buying them. It's not like they're bad games. Like I said, it's it's not like they released Sonic Boom last generation, and then they put it out again this generation.
But they might as well have, because it's that bad.
Yeah, this is
the part of the podcast where we knock on Sonic Boom. We do this every podcast. So
the last 5 minutes of every show, we do a Sonic bashing period. This is your first time listening. So go back and listen to every show. I swear it happens every show, it seems like.
Yes, it definitely does happen. That is a thing that happens every time.
It's becoming a tradition. That's like our niche in YouTube.
In fact, if you go through and watch them all and give us the timestamp where they all start, then we'll give you a verbal prize.
It's
just make a video where we have all of them in it.
the compilation video of all of the Sonic Boom bashes.
What we should do is we should take one line that we used in every Sonic is so bad, I wouldn't give it to my worst enemy. Just take one of those lines from every episode and just put it in the compilation and just have it be a string of insults about the Sonic series. And that's it.
Oh, poor Sonic.
Just post it with no explanation.
Yes.
If you're still listening, I'm sorry, by the way. This is just...
Yeah, I think we're probably nearing the end of this one, guys.
Well, here's the good news, though. Since there was not really any news discussion, we did manage to get the show under, I believe, something like 35 minutes. I don't have the timestamp right in front of me, but
yeah, definitely
I don't think we've gone that long. So yeah, good job, everybody. We did it. We did a short, listenable podcast for once.
Oh man.
We did it. We did it.
We did it.
Hooray.
Okay, now it became 100% more unlistenable.
All right, guys.
Spiegel knows speaking. Spiegel knows speaking is what it should be.
That's
Right?
ironic what just happened.
Now you pronounce your name?
No, it's Spigel.
I knew that. I say that every time.
That reminds me.
Big L.
Each of the
So we're all from the IGN Zelda board, right? Go check it out if you haven't already. If you listen to this podcast for the first time, we're all from the Zelda board. And there's this guy over on there. Just give him a shout out. It's Boss Bulls 2005. He always, whenever he references me, he always puts SPIGE, which I never understood because everyone just puts SPIG,
right.
or SPI.
E-L.
But he always says like
Spige.
Spige. It's like I don't get it. I don't know why you do. I even told him like, that's not how you pronounce my username, right? He's like, yeah, but I just like put it like this. I'm like, okay, whatever you want, dude.
And I'm gonna start saying SPI and just cut it off there.
Spy.
That was a thing when I first joined the board, and then they started calling me pig. They started calling me pig for a while, which I thought was funny. That sort of went away.
Little history heritage lesson for you guys.
No,
there's a lot of
like shortens my name. It's always just Xiaber.
I called you X for a while, and you got really mad for some reason.
I didn't get mad. I was just like,
it's too close to
stop calling
Hex.
me X because I don't notice that you're calling me X. I just think you just put X down.
You don't know that he's referencing you.
Yeah.
That would have been the best though. Like we could have had Spiegel X and Hex. It would have been like a radio show. We could do Spiegel X and Hex.
I think just Hex and X would be better.
Hex and X
That'd be
doesn't
the
sound like
worst
anything.
radio show.
It sounds like a restaurant.
Kind of like this is the worst podcast.
And on that note, we're gonna go ahead and end this show, since this is officially the worst podcast of all time. Thank you for listening.
Heard it first here, folks.
Yeah, if you're still like, how they have like on the back of the box, like they have praise for it.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is the worst podcast ever. Don't listen to it. Okay, so. What's a good podcast without a little B rating? So if you are unlike us and you actually liked our show, feel free to give it a thumbs up or leave us a comment. Oh, here's a good idea. Leave us a comment of a game that you'd like to see remastered. Also, leave your impressions of this show, of any show that we do, because we love hearing feedback. It's a great thing for us because it helps us. Honestly, it helps us tailor the show for what people want. Like, some people were saying the shows are too long. So I'm like, okay, so we'll shorten the show. Of course, now it's gone like 5 minutes beyond what it needed to be.
We are no longer under 40.
Yeah, well...
Maybe we are.
So anyway, if you liked our show, feel free to do all that stuff. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because that way you get all of our videos, including our Minish Recap series, which we just started. Don't forget to visit the ZB.net. Check out the IGN Zelda board if you want. There's a lot of cool people over there. And maybe you can become a part of our little community too. And maybe someday you can be on this show if you don't suck like we do.
It's that easy.
We love you all.
I know what I said doesn't make any sense, but that's sort of where we are at this point. So say good night, everybody.
Good night, good morning, good afternoon, bye.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're listening to this.
This was the ZBN podcast for Hex and Xiaber. This is Spigel signing off. Thanks for listening, everybody.